Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about individual lifestyle trade-offs and the decline of society's overall well-being, an agent-based model. The model was developed and presented in this article, Journal of Artificial Societies and Social Simulation, Volume 19, Number 2, 2016. You can find this journal online. This presentation was made at the IBII annual conference in 2016. You see on the left here this picture of a frog in a pot. It refers to an urban legend that if you take a frog in a lukewarm pan of water, put it on the stove, heat it up very, very gradually, then the frog will not notice the temperature change and will stay in the pot until it's cooked, because it will not perceive its worsening condition, even though it's getting worse. And I think this is a metaphor for the results that this model predicts, that conditions of people in this society become steadily worse. People don't notice it, so the conditions continue to get worse and people do nothing about it. And in fact, their actions tend to exacerbate the problem. So we'll see how this plays out as I present the model. Here's an outline of my talk. First, I'll state the problem and model assumptions. Then I'll describe the implementation of the agent-based model. I'll give simulation results and interpretation. And I'll give implications for policy and further work. Now, overview. In developed and developing society, increases in prosperity are often accompanied by decreases in self-reported happiness. There have been many studies done in many countries. Notable examples are China, Japan. There have been studies done in the US. There are mixed results. Sometimes there are not decreases, but there's very slight increases. This phenomenon is called the Easterlin paradox, that increases in well-being are not accompanied by commensurate increases in self-reported happiness. And there are various explanations. And also the paradox is somewhat controversial. But I think it is well accepted that enormous increases in prosperity are not accompanied by commensurate increases in self-reported well-being. So the question is, can we develop a conceptual mathematical understanding of this phenomenon? And we use agent-based modeling, which is a rapidly growing and important modeling technique to develop a mathematical model of this situation. And this is not meant to be a comprehensive model, but just to give an indication of the forces and pressures involved that may produce this outcome. We have four behavioral assumptions on which the model is based. First of all, we assume that individuals in the population or subpopulation try to maximize their own well-being. I put subpopulation here because the model assumes that people are more or less in the same situation as far as well-being is concerned. So it might be more appropriate to apply this model to a subpopulation within the overall population. New graduates, for instance, or fast food workers, some people who have a fairly uniform demographic. And this first assumption is called the rational actor assumption. It's commonly made in sociology. There is some controversy, but again, I think the general consensus is that it's largely true, if not completely true. Second assumption, contributions to an individual's well-being include both material and immaterial factors. Material factors include prosperity, prestige, income, things that are conspicuous. There's the economic term, conspicuous consumption. Things that can be pointed to, things that you can put on your resume. Immaterial factors include stress, environment, and relationships. So you might think of a situation where you're under a lot of stress, but you're also receive a lot of prestige. So this is a situation where you have factors that both have positive and negative contributions to your overall well-being. Or you may have a situation where your job gives you very high income, but it takes you away from your family. So there's a plus as far as prosperity, negative as far as relationship. So lifestyle situations, lifestyle choices involve a mix of different types of factors. Now, there's not a rigid division between these two types, but there's kind of a gradation. We can think of some factors as more or less material and others as more or less immaterial. So there's kind of a continuous scale. Third assumption is that current lifestyle choices tend to reflect material norms. We are offered lifestyle choices by potential employers or by people who, retailers or people who sell or real estate agents. Job offers are based on salary and benefits. These are material factors. These are important in the interview. These are what the jobs tend to advertise. They don't tend to advertise what the job will do for your relationship, but what it will do for your economic status. And for instance, housing is the same thing. It's emphasizing the material factors and material benefits, such as status, location, and various benefits and so on. These are all, they tend to reflect material norms. So when people are offering a house on the market, they're looking at what other people are offering as far as the material factors are concerned. When people are offering jobs, they're looking also at what other companies are offering, and they try to match or better the norm that's being offered. Last assumption is that lifestyle choices for individuals involve trade-offs. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Improvements in material prosperity tend to involve immaterial costs. Not always, but tend to. You have in economics you talk about the Pareto optimum, that you can improve one factor, and improving one factor may have a negative effect on the other factor. And as I mentioned, you may have a great job offer that requires you to move away from your family. There tends to be a certain amount of trade-off in lifestyle choices. So here's a brief description of the model. The population is modeled as a set of agents, where each agent has a material well-being index and an immaterial well-being index. And so we have a lot of individuals, I think several thousand individuals in the model. We model each individual basically as a pair of two numbers, and those two numbers change over time. So mathematically, you can consider the population as a vector, or as a matrix, with the matrix is a 2 by n matrix, where you have two components, two indices for each of n agents. Agents randomly enter and leave the system, but the number of agents remains stable. So this goes along with the fact that we have a subpopulation, and people are entering and leaving the subpopulation as their life condition changes. I gave the example of new graduates. So new graduates are entering all the time, and then as they progress in their career, they're leaving this particular subpopulation. As time progresses, agents are offered lifestyle choices with immaterial and material indices which follow a time-dependent probability distribution. And new lifestyle choices mean material well-being index matches the current population's mean material well-being index. So what does that mean? The well-being index of new lifestyle choices is set equal to the current mean material well-being index. That's only for material and not for immaterial. As I mentioned, the market tends to look at material factors and not at immaterial factors. The other aspect is that new lifestyle choices, mean material and immaterial indices, are negatively correlated. This reflects the fact that material advantages tend to involve trade-offs. A company can offer a job position with more money, but that may require more responsibility and more stress and more difficult. So there tends to be a trade-off between different factors, as I talked about before. Now, in the model, the mean material and immaterial well-being indices of agents in the system are recorded over time. So we can see here a flowchart the flowchart of the model is that first we initialize the well-being indices of agents and the lifestyle choice distribution. We start with initial distributions. Then we loop over time. At each time step, we generate new lifestyle choices for all agents. And the agents will accept or reject lifestyle choices. And this includes turnover, the fact that some people are just entering the system, so they'll accept any choice. As a result of people's lifestyle choices, we update the lifestyle choice distribution because, as I said, the lifestyle choice reflects the current norms, and the norms change as people make decisions. And then we repeat the process. Right. Here's the basically center of the code. The code was written in Scilab, which is similar to MATLAB. So here you see the time loop. This little w is a vector representing new lifestyle choices for n agents. You can see the normal distribution. Here the mean of those, the material and immaterial mean is adjusted based on current material norms. The material mean is adjusted by the current material norm. The immaterial mean is adjusted based on negative correlation with the material mean. We have a logical variable here called criteria, which is 1 if the well-being represented by the choice improves the agent's well-being, and 0 otherwise. Then we add the effects of turnover probability, and this model has a choice rate. Not everybody gets to make a choice at every time step, only a fraction. And we adjust the agent's index values according to their choices. Here we change the well-being of the material well-being and immaterial well-being based on the individual's choice. And then we adjust the lifestyle choice distribution. The new mean material well-being index for new lifestyle choices comes to agree with the mean well-being index represented by the population. So let's represent the system dynamics in a plane. As I said, individuals are represented by material and immaterial well-being indices. So each individual can be represented as a point on this plane. And these are level sets. Any two individuals that both lie on the same line will have the same overall well-being. And individuals want to move this way. I think of these as yard lines on a football field, and this is the direction towards the touchdown. That's where people are going. So now, at any time, the new lifestyle choices will have a certain mean, and a distribution, which is a joint Gaussian. And here you can see there's negative correlation between material and immaterial well-being. And here's the trade-off direction. As the new lifestyle choices material mean increases, the immaterial mean has to decrease in order because of trade-offs. And here's the trade-off direction. As the mean of this distribution, is free to move along this line. Now, in this case, notice that the slope of this line is steeper than the slope of the level sets. Now, what happens when people make choices? Here's someone making a choice. He will accept this choice because he's moving up the football field. All these choices will be accepted. Now, as these choices are accepted, these choices will tend to improve the material well-being of the agents. What does that do? That will shift the lifestyle choices distribution mean so that the material well-being index increases. But if the material well-being index increases, the immaterial well-being index has to decrease because it's staying along this line. So the distribution shifts downward. The entire distribution shifts downward. And what tends to happen is that the net averages for material and immaterial well-being are shifting along this line. So, in fact, the mean well-being of new choices is decreasing. Not every individual choice is worse, but the mean is decreasing. And we see this reflected in the mean in the population means. these different colors correspond to different slopes. So I mentioned that green line that I showed back there has a slope relative to these lines. These lines have slope -1. And this slope is -k, according to the slide here. Here, k is 0.75. It means that, well, you can see that these dots are actually moving along that slope. They're moving along that slope of 0.75. In fact, the slope determines the trajectory of the dots. The dots are moving along the slope. Well, not exactly, but they tend to move along the slope. Now, notice that here's the starting point. Initially, everybody does better. There's a equilibration period where people are getting better choices. But after a while, in the long-term tendency, if the trade-off rate is bigger than 1, then overall well-being is declining. And the argument is that the trade-off rate will be bigger than 1 because of diminishing returns. If this process continues, then in order to continue to increase material well-being, the trade-offs will have to be more and more serious, more and more severe, so the sacrifice in increasing immaterial well-being will be greater with respective to material well-being. So, as I said, solid lines are a constant well-being. All scenarios start at 0, 0. There's temporary increase in all cases, followed by steady decrease. Here we see final distributions of agents. Each one of these pluses is an agent. And you can see that these colors correspond to the colors in the previous slide. These are increasing trade-off slopes. You can say, for instance, in this case, that there's some people who are left behind. They don't want to go along with the trend, but in general, people are moving downward with the trend. This ellipse here reflects new lifestyle choices. And what's going to happen is that these ones are going to disappear as they move out of the system because of turnover. So in fact, it's kind of like a slug leaving a trail behind. But this will disappear because people are going to be leaving the system. All right, now this graph of the same result, this only shows different axes. This is total well-being over time, and you can see the increase, the beginning increase, and then the gradual decrease whenever the trade-off rate is bigger than 1. Okay, so conclusions. When available lifestyle choices are determined primarily by material norms, then economic pressures will drive material prosperity upwards at the expense of immaterial aspects of personal well-being. So if this trade-off is unfavorable between material and immaterial well-being, then overall well-being is progressively worsened. And this is a natural market phenomenon, so to counteract, non-market intervention would be required. By promoting awareness, letting people know what's going on through social, cultural, spiritual channels, and government regulation, such as regulating employment, can also be used. So this really is nothing new. I leave this quote for your consideration. Some things don't ever change. So thank you for your watching this presentation.